All right, guys, what's going on? Bench Racing podcast with McClure Motorsport. We got the master Blaze HANSEN on for this one. Come over to help us out with the Tirana. Come over to help us with the Tirana this weekend, and it paid off big time. So it wasn't without a lot of hassle and blood, sweat, and tears, literally, to get to this point. But yeah, came out with the gold. Me and Casey both took out our classes, so that was a huge effort from the team. And Casey was really no surprise, but man, going into round one, we weren't too confident about the Tirana and what we had going on there, and probably pulled the worst person we could have for first round, but it just went our way. So.
What gave you that impression that you weren't real confident?
We're gonna go into how the weekend started. First qualifier, we came out with the Tirana, and we were looking to just roll on from our first, our last meeting, and we were going mid 640s, and the car was running really good and consistent, and came out and it didn't shift into second gear, and it was almost like it was stuck in between first and second a little bit. Maybe the linkage was just a little bit off, or the shifter cable we thought maybe was a little bit worn out. So we checked all that through, went over the linkage again, came out for Q2, and the car went out there, hit the limiter, and revved the car to 10.2 or 10.6, wasn't it?
Just past the limiter.
Yeah, just past the limiter, so like 10.5, which was obviously too much because it went ahead and bent the valve on number one cylinder, and the exhaust valve. Looks like the rocker got behind the valve stem and bent it across into the outside of the rocker cover, which really just killed the car. And I turned off the end of the track and we took it back, and the rocker cover wouldn't come off, and then we pulled it off, seen it was bent, so we yanked the head off, went to work on it, cut the valve off. Then I think after we cut the valve off, we punched it out, and then me and Blaze shot home to Dad's place, pick up the spare valves and stuff like that. We got back to the track, started belting the valve stem over because it was bent pretty hard, and we couldn't do anything with it. So we ended up getting Bobby from Applied Automotive to come over and have a look at the cylinder head for us, and that was like he showed us all the tricks, but just nothing was really quite working how we were going to be happy with it, willing to send the car back out to the start line like that and risk damaging the car more. So we ended up just parking it for the night, and taking the spare cylinder head down to Applied the next morning, 7 o'clock. We met Bobby at Applied, and he punched the stem out, punched it into our good head with all the gear in it. And then we headed to the track, loaded the valve and the spring into it. And then we started the car up once it was all built. And we had number 4. For some reason, number 4 was showing a little bit cold on the EGT, and the car just didn't sound right. At this point, we didn't know that the transmission had something wrong with it as well. So we weren't even looking there because we had other problems going on. So we really didn't even consider that the transmission had a problem with it. So we started it up and went to run through the gears. Had no gears after we finally got to start the car up, as well as this number 4 cylinder that's come out of nowhere that's got a problem with it all of a sudden. So then we looked around there, thought it maybe was a coil pack. Then I think that was when the car started rattling right after that, and we found that the flex plate bolts were loose as well. So off with the tranny, pulled that back, got under there, all the flex plate bolts had rattled loose. So we tightened them back up, put the trans back on, started it up. The rattle was gone, but it was still a little bit down on power sort of thing, but it sort of cleared up, we thought, when we revved it up. But went out to the start line, had Marino Galotto first round, and, you know, we were in the pits, we were thinking, we made the call pretty early, probably like an hour before the run. We just went, we're just going to have to bluff it. We just played it cool, and the boys kept their mouths shut and straight faces, and we went out there and
full intention to make a good 150-foot ripper. Like,
full intention.
We were still trying to do something, whatever we could.
Yeah, for sure. We were still trying to make it out to 150 foot because that's how far the car was going all weekend. And the car was PBing 60 foot wise, 330 wise. It was showing really good numbers, like low 40s was the potential of the early numbers. So we were on just if the car would go into second gear, which it just wasn't doing. We had the car to top qualify that meet. And we really should have. There was no reason for us to not top qualify there, apart from the fact that it smashed top gear out of it. But so then we pulled up for Marino there, and it had, when I went to shift it into second gear for the burnout, it didn't go into second, whereas in the qualifying rounds it was going into second in the burnout. So I really knew there was something wrong there. I started reaching down, trying to grab the shifter linkage and see if it was getting hung up maybe in first gear, and I knew there was something wrong with the motor. It was blowing a bit of smoke out the right-hand side, so I just put it up into pre-stage, started spooling it up, and it just was dead. Didn't go over $1.5 grand, I don't reckon, on the spool up. I just went, fuck, it's over. I just put it into stage, and sure enough, Marino went 002 red, I think, on the tree. And at that point, when I was rolling through the top end, I was rolling through the lights, turning off at the gate at the end, and I was just like, man, come on, this is like not supposed to. I'm not supposed to win this race right now. So
I mean, even on the start line, we didn't even know you won. We sort of seen it. It was just dead, and we just turned around and just went, F our life. Like, this has been a terrible week. Let's just pack it up, and I don't want to see it ever again.
Yeah,
Old Al was over it, mate. He was like, put it in the trailer. We're going home. Like, that's enough.
Yeah.
We've worked too hard to do this.
Yeah, and yeah, that's Dad's probably he does not get over it, but he
makes smarter decisions than we did.
He makes smarter decisions. He doesn't like to work himself so hard anymore. I think he forgets what he used to do back in the day when he was running the circuit and winning Australian championships and stuff like that. He did all this dumb crap that I'm doing now. And yeah, so after we won that run, I said to the boys beforehand, I said, if we somehow magically get through this, I said, we're going to have to rip that box out when we get back. So
luckily I spoke to Mike Naylor just before our run with Marino, and I said to him, we got no first gear here, so I don't know how this is going to go. And he said, I've actually got a glide in my truck. If you guys manage to get through this round, you can use whatever you want out of it, and we'll sort it out later. And I said, look, we got to get through this round first before we think about anything like that. So I told Connor, and he said, if we get through, like, be ready with that box because we're doing it. And I was like, all right, sweet.
Yeah, and little did I know that we were going to roll up there and the thing was going to be dead. So I thought, when we were towing back, I thought maybe it could have had a hole in the piston or anything like that. I was ready to throw a slug at it as well. So I wasn't too concerned with that. But once we got back to the pits, leaked it down, we found that somehow one of the valves had been hung open a tiny bit on number 4. We still don't know why that happened. We just undid the rockers and did them straight back up where they were. We've done it 100 times like that. Never had a problem with it, but for some reason that's just how it was, and that's how it was supposed to go that day. So that's what we were dealing with there. And once we figured out that I had no leak down and there wasn't any holes and there was the car, we put the plugs back in, started it up. It sounded mint. We went, all right, that's it. Rip the gearbox out, which is a bit of a task in this car. It's got to come out through the front window, and you need about 4 people to pull it out because it's so tight in there.
Red hot.
And it was
red hot, and 6 people jammed in an LC or whatever.
Yeah, me sitting in the driver's seat, Dad in the passenger seat, and like 3 people hanging in over the motor trying to rip it out the front window. So when it's that hot, and then you're trying to pull the converter off, and that thing's 3 times as hot as the trans. So we ripped it out, put it up on the back of the truck, and started pulling it down. And we got the second gear clutches out of it. The band looked all good when we ripped it out, but pulled the clutches out, and they were just black. They were black as the track. So we ripped them out, put Mike's drum in with our hat, slipped it all back in there, and pushed the pump in, and it seemed like it went together all good. So we thought we just got to run with that. Poked it in the car and fired it up, and sure enough, it shifted straight into second gear. And I thought, man, this is something pretty fucking cool going on right now. So we got it all ready to go out for round 2. We had Russell Ladbrook, who's a tough competitor. The car runs really quick. He's just come back after a bit of a break, so he was a little bit rusty warming up over the test day and the Saturday, but sure enough, when he come up against us, he put down a pass, went straight on the national index and went a 5.97. Luckily, I had him a little bit better on the tree, and the Tirana went straight into second gear, and I think it went through for a 48. 58, sorry. We had it, Blaze turned it down a little bit for that one because it was a daytime run. And yeah, I was pretty stoked with that one. That win was probably the best one out of all of them after a thrash like that, and the boys putting in a lot of effort in the pit to be able to compose myself and go up there and not go red and drive the car good and take it down through there for a win was really good. And we took it back to the pits, and we almost didn't know what to do. We had nothing to do. We just had to turn the car around like normal. Instead of the last 4 runs we did, we had to virtually rebuild the whole car every single run. So
actually got to sit down and have something to eat and drink for the first time that day.
Yeah, I think at one point there when we got back to the pits, I looked up at Blaze and he looked like a tomato. His head was just completely red. His arms were red, and I was like, man, what the hell are we doing?
Tough going.
It was tough going.
Cyclonic weather. Couldn't have the tent up for half the day. Just putting cylinder heads on out in the sun.
Man. Just no tents, nothing, getting blown on. It was just absolutely treacherous conditions to be building motors in and stuff. But then we pulled through for round 3. We had Rick Johns in the semi, and went up there and went 0.80 on the tree against Rick, and he was going really quick. He went right on the record on that run. He actually went under the national record there, but we just did it a little bit better. We went, I think that was the 48, wasn't it? That was the one. We went a 10th under the national record there, and that's actually the run that reset the national record. We took both ends of the BB APIA national record with that run. So that was pretty cool. When you can talk like that on Facebook and then go out and do it, add another 2 to the list of BB records in the McClure name, and really puts a stamp on our program, I think, and just shows that we're the real deal, and we are not here to play around and just tiptoe around records. We want to set them, and we want to own them, and then we went on to the final round against Steve Martin, which is a pretty cool race, and that was Dad's old car from when I was about 8 years old to 14. That's the car he owned and raced, and that owns a lot of BB records and Australian championships and stuff like that. So that was a pretty cool moment to have to race that car, and I sort of let the boys down on the tree. I went 2-something on the tree, but I just did not want to go red. There was something telling me I just couldn't go red on that run. And Steve, sure enough, went out there and popped the gearbox on the 1-2 shift, and the Tirana went through there for a 51, and the gearbox was struggling. She didn't want to do one more run.
It was on its knees.
If we had to rerun that final, I don't think she would have made it.
There was no way we were rerunning that final. It was holding 92 the whole way from 300 foot to the finish line. But there was all sorts of lights and stuff carrying on the dash, and I just thought, I just got to stay in this thing. I was wiggling around. And
a bit of rev limiter on a blown altered has never sounded so good.
Yeah. Not that I could hear it, but I just thought, I just don't want to see that thing come up next to me. But
once we heard it, we were all fist bump. I don't even know if the video is good for that run because we were all just jumping around.
Yeah. So that was crazy. But onto Casey. She did really good throughout the weekend, cutting really good lights, and the car was running super consistent. Looks like the changes that Dad made to the fuel was a good move, and the conditions were playing the game on that weekend, and the car ran, I think, 3 or 4 48s that weekend, so that was really good, and she had the composure in the final to just hold it back a little bit. She went 009 in the semi on her solo pass, but we just needed to woe that back a little bit and get her back into the higher O's or
I think she
100s.
went a 100 in that final.
Yeah.
That's probably the worst light she's cut all season.
Yeah, that'd have to be the worst light she's cut all season. But
She had 2 or 3 double O's through the weekend.
I think so. Yeah, it could have been. Yeah,
I know she did an 020 and maybe an 013 or something like that.
She had 3 or 4 under 050. So that's pretty good lights and good consistency on the tree from Casey. But that's just an unbeatable combo at the moment, it seems. That's Casey's second Westernationals in a row, and she's just come off the back of her third Golden States in a row. So when you can take away 5 trees in as many meets in 3 seasons, that's seriously impressive, and that's a really dominant combination driver-car combo that I can't see anyone coming near anytime soon with how consistent that car is and how nailed down the combo. It just works, and Casey just does her job in the car. So that's really awesome for her to bring that home and do the double for the team. I love it when it's pretty hard to sit underneath the tunnel and watch Casey go have a win, because most of the time when she wins, I don't win. So if I'm watching her and she goes out and gets a win, I'm like, oh, God damn it. Probably not going to win this one. But felt really good to be able to get my first tree, and in comp eliminated, it's even more special. That's probably the reason I had to wait so long just for this moment and have to work for it that hard, and I wouldn't have it any other way. That's how Dad always won all his trees and stuff like that. And it's funny, I actually said to Blaze when I went and picked him up from the airport that, that we've never won a Christmas tree without a huge struggle. Always, when we were travelling, always having transmission problems, always having something broken on the car. It's running like crap. It's this, it's that. It's pulling the rocket gear out of the head, and it's just
what you want to hear when you land in Perth for the event before we've even started my lap.
I just can't remember a meeting where we haven't had an absolute shit fight.
You probably have to back it up like a few days as well, and give a little bit there.
Oh well, yeah.
Just a little bit.
So this puts a little bit more icing on top of the story. So leading up to the event, we had a bit of an issue with, we sent the crank away to California to get welded after the last meeting. We had a 6-week gap. We organised it with the guy we were sending it over to get it welded. We sent the crank over there, and after 2 weeks we thought, we don't want to bother the guy, but we sort of want to get an update on it. Tried to ring him, couldn't get a hold of him for 3 days. So we're starting to get a little bit worried. It's starting to close the gap up, and you don't want to leave too much. You want to leave a little bit of time to be able to get the thing back into Australia, because we know how it is with shipping and stuff like that. But we finally got a hold of the guy, and he said, "Oh no, it's still sitting on the floor here in the front room." We went, "Wow, that is really not what we wanted to hear." So we ended up just saying, just put it back in the box and send it home. So $1,300 later, a little holiday for the crank, and maybe it worked. Maybe it that's what it needed to finally start working and maybe get me my first trees. It just needed a little holiday. So that was really crazy. We got the crank back the Tuesday before the meeting. Wednesday we put it all together, and then Saturday we were racing it, and it's just that whole week leading up, and the weekend was the hardest I've worked on that car since we've had it, and at least it paid out in the end and gave us the rewards we wanted. So
yeah, we got to also thank our crew guy Troy and his mate who actually lives Dave, who actually lives in California. And when we couldn't get through to the guy, Troy said, look, I've got a mate in LA and he can probably come past after his shift and see what's going on. So that was a huge help. Shout out to Troy and Dave, and also putting the car together. Shout out to Dee and Brad who come over one night and we spent the whole night putting it back together and getting it ready to go before the meet. So that's our awesome crew. That's what they do. So thanks.
Yeah, that's like what makes this happen is having so many people that want to push in the same direction, and we got a real positive vibe in our crew, and they all want the same thing, and they're all passionate about the sport and our team, and I think that's probably the difference that sets us apart from the rest of the field, is that we just want it so bad, and we'll stop at nothing to get what we want. And I think it's shown. Got, I think, maybe a 50-point lead in the Top Comp Championship now, and Casey's stretched her lead on Brody in the Supercharged Outlaws Championship now to, I think it'd be around 150. So Casey's looking really good to wrap up the Supercharged Outlaws Championship soon, and I just got to keep pushing in the Top Comp Championship to keep that one under wraps. It's not going to be easy. Marino and Matty Brown are right there. They're going to be coming hot. So got to just keep this thing together for the rest of the season. I think we should be having a hot rod for the last couple of meets. So that's really looking positive coming into the last couple. But let's move on to our guests now, because it's enough talking about us. What is this? Tell us how you got started in drag racing, boys.
Same as you boys. You're just born into it, really. Both the parents were deeply involved. You know, they met each other through the car scene and stuff, and went around. Like, Mum ended up, you know, she raced a modified car that her and Dad had, and both of them raced it. And then she ended up the division director of South Queensland, Andra. Dad was a national chief steward there for a while. He's built race cars. When he was young, he was like, what have I got to learn to build race cars? So he went and just, you know, dabbled in fiberglass shops and boilie shops and sheet metal shops, and just learned all the little bits and pieces, and then went, all right, I want to start working on these, sort of build a business there for a bit, fabricating, and yeah, you just grow up into it. And before you know it, you're racing juniors, or you're running around the track while they're doing Andra things or whatever, and just walking around the pits and saying hello to people. And yeah, before you know it, you've begged your parents enough to get your own junior dragster, and you sort of just build up from there. And, you know, by the time the juniors come out with data loggers, and, you know, they sort of evolved from the old Briggs and Stratton into billet motors, and yeah, I sort of took on the data side, you know, your little microns. That's where your data experience started, you know. There's still an engine. You're still learning. We got to make jet change and clutch change and see how it affected it, and that's sort of where it really starts. And, you know, by 14, I built most of my own junior, you know, like the old boy was there and he welded it up for me, but I was tacking it together, and yeah, it just evolves, and you just go from there. That's
crazy how involved at such a young age you were in junior drag racing, and it obviously has flowed on from there. What was your next step from junior dragsters onto your next path?
I had a slight foray into bikes that didn't last very long. So I was still racing the junior at the time, and Mum had a couple of street bikes and stuff, and raced a little 250, and that was, you know, all good, too slow. Yeah. Plenty of fun, but. Yeah. And got a bit too big for me boots, I guess, and the brain outweighed the talent. Jumped on a 1000cc, you know, Suzuki TL1000. Thought I was, you know, king shit for a little bit. All of 3 runs. Thought my piss fucking was, you know, piss excellence. I'll never say that again. But yeah, I had a bit of a tank slapper and went bouncing down Willowbank on a Wednesday night, testing tune.
Nice.
So I had free entry from winning the junior championship at the time for Willowbank for the next year. So I was like, I'll just go run mod bike on Mum's TL until I bounced it down the track. Sorry, Mum.
Yeah.
And at that point, The Donnellys, we just built them a couple of juniors and were pretty involved with them, and they just bought a Super Sedan Nova. So Jason and Haley offered me to drive their car, which at the time was a great opportunity, and low 9-second Nova. So we jumped at that, and they were traveling the country with their juniors and stuff already, and so I was lucky enough to jump straight into a championship season where we went to Perth, Sydney, end up winning the 2010 Nitro champs in Super Sedan. I think finished 4th or 5th in the championship.
Yep.
While we were doing that, we were actually, me and Dad were building my little mini dragster with the Hayabusa motor in it at the time. Just, we sort of thought there was maybe a market for, a bit of a step from juniors to modified with a cheap sort of budget. You could, at that time, you could pick up a Hayabusa engine for $5,000. So we built that. Stock motor, runs 930. In the second season, we ended up winning the modified track championship. And then in between, there was a few other people's cars and stuff they wanted me to test or just license before they got in them. So you just dabble in a little bit of stuff here and there, and ended up putting a turbo on the dragster.
Legendary.
A little bit different.
Yeah.
So that's a bunch of fun. It ended up going 734 at 185. We ran it in comp there at the Winters, but index was pretty hard, and it's pretty hard on transmissions and clutch plates.
Yeah.
But
I remember watching it at the Winters once, and I was sort of down near the commentary tower just below it, on the near the start line, and I just seen this little thing. You can only just see the roll cage above the wall, and this little thing just going. I was like, what the fuck was that?
it's that kid in that junior dragster.
It's so cool.
But so the whole plan when we put the turbo on that dragster was we had plans to build a top bike, not bike people as such, didn't really interest me or anything, but top bike's sort of a different deal, If you've got a bike that stands upright with no kickstand or anything, because the tyre's wide enough and you got wheelie bars, that's just a race car with 2 wheels. So we started building that bike and was sort of using the dragster as a on-track dyno development, so that when that engine went straight back into the bike chassis, the tune-up was there for it. We had a reasonable understanding of the clutch, as much as it did actually have to change for the bike, we didn't really expect how dramatic it was as a difference. But so all that went in, and you didn't have to worry about the engine tuning. The engine itself was sorted. It was
all set up.
Yeah, you were very confident. It'd be like you taking the engine out, it's running now, and putting it in a dragster. You're confident that the tune-up will work.
It's all there.
One less thing to worry about. So obviously, then riding the bike and just working out the clutch and all the doings and differences of a bike, and so that's where that sort of ended up. And it's just hard on gearboxes, but that's entered a new development stage. It's taken longer than thought, but it is what it is.
It's all going to take time, and that's going to be a really cool thing when you do end up bringing that out. I think it's going to be a bit of a different perspective on how to run a bike, but that's pretty wicked. What about? I know you're very heavily involved in jet racing. How did that come about? And you started to get to know Colin and the team, and he started trusting you with his gear.
Yeah, well, hopefully that's paid off. Hopefully he's happy about that so far. So it actually all started with when my little dragster, when we put the turbo on it, we ended up at a roller dyno, and Rob Novak at the time, he was tuning. So, and credit to him, a lot of my EFI tuning and engine tuning from that perspective come from Rob. He took me under his wing. He didn't want to just take our money and put a tune up in it and bugger off. He was happy to teach, and really happy with how he did that, and very grateful for it. But Kelly Betts was actually at the dyno. We were just hanging around at that point, and we were both in modified, and she come down to watch it, and she said to Rob Novak, "Oh, that ute you drive is just awesome," which was the jet racing Datsun ute, and he was driving it and tuning him. So long story short, he's like, "Oh, you like it? Oh, that's cool as." Next event in Sydney, we were just walking around the pits, and I was like, "Oh, I'll go in at jet racing, and we'll go see Colin and Robbie and just say hello." And Colin goes up, and, "You like this car, do you, Kelly?" And she's like, "F yeah, let's go. We'll have a sit in it." And goes, "God, do you want to drive it?" As simple as that. Good. Literally, just met face to face, basically.
Wow.
And yeah, she's sitting in it, and do you want to have a go? And yeah, it was a matter of weeks later, and she's in that car, and we'll support our friends, and we go to the track, and one thing led to another, and it's like, okay, we're crewing on the car, and Rob Harrington's helping us crew on the car, and Kelly's going to Sydney and running Jambos, and you're working with Rob Novak, and I end up downloading the data, and Rob, what do you want to do? Yeah, what do you want to do? And he's a little bit of fuel or whatever. So end up doing a bit more, working on the clutch, learning the clutch, and it just sort of evolved into in 2018 where we're running in America and 2 cars, and at that point my suspension stuff's coming more into his car, and so as just a team it's just evolving and working, and you're running records, and it got to the point where Rob Novak sort of backed away a little bit, so I sort of have taken over where he was, great base to work from, and just trying to refine everything, I guess, and got to the point where Dad moved overseas, so our little chassis shop stuff sort of stopped, and Colin went, look, I've got enough work for you, and at the time we were just going to build the Mustang and stuff, and he's like, look, I want to do this. Are you happy to, do you want to come and work for me? Sure.
Yeah. No, that's a great opportunity, and great gear, and great avenues to pursue with development and stuff through Colin. There's a lot of good connections and stuff. With all the good stuff he's got on board his cars. So
likes to go racing properly, that man. So
yeah, definitely. He doesn't do it in halves, which is good to see. Good to see someone who's invested in the sport, like Colin, and he really does have some really fast hot rods. Also, I want to talk about, obviously, you were part of at one point, it was the world's fastest 4-cylinder with Colin's Eclipse. How did that all come about, running in the lead up to running the 622, I think it was at the time?
She was 20, when we went to Orlando. So, that thing's a compound turbo deal.
Yep.
Not that compound turboing is new as such, but it was sort of the first one, not in a diesel form, in drag racing to really be successful, I guess, especially in a 4-cylinder base. So
and consistent.
So that was all Colin's team, between Phil O'Brien, Colin, Rob Novak, all planning before I worked for him. So I was just tuning the car. Oh, not even tuning it. I was just crewing on it. When they'd finished all the compound stuff, and so there was a lot to learn for them from there. But it come around pretty fast. They spent a lot of time on the dyno. They started at 10-pounder boost and went all the way through 100, fine tuning it the whole way. There were so many different, and just you can't. There's nothing to lean on at that point. No information to lean on.
No.
So they were working it out themselves, and they were a smart group to put it together. It was a good bunch of brains working together, and so by the time we got some laps and stuff on it, I think it was a year before. So 2017 winters, that car got debuted with the compound and stuff, and had a new lightweight body put on it, and a lot of work went into it. And I think we got it to go maybe 631 at that winters. And it was just development then. It was, what can we do? Speeding the turbos up, working out what it wanted to work. Just developmental stuff and trying it, So a year within that next year, it was a few test sessions and stuff, and then getting ready to go to America. We'd run 626 here at 229 on a test session. Got it to go to Orlando, and we were racing, we were serious, and we wanted the record. So we had our Motec programmers on hand. They're in England, and they were ready to change stuff while we're at the racetrack. If we want to program and stuff change, we were ready, and we just threw it down. And that Orlando racetrack, it was just killer consistent, decent weather, and it just gave you the ability to repeat. You just no matter what time of the day, you could throw it down, and just that being there really helped us, because we could put down
what it had.
Exactly. And you're making 15, 20 laps over 2 and 3 days in the test days, so you can learn immense. As long as you're not having to work on the car and stuff going wrong.
That is the thing most of the time, is having the track there to be able to do what you want to do is a massive thing. And like you say, if you've got the track there and you can be able to get to the lanes that many times. You can learn as much as you learn in a season in 2 days.
That's exactly right. It fast-tracked that whole program, like, you know, real fast. We had to adapt to the weather and stuff, which was probably more dramatic than we thought, you know.
Yeah, so what was the weather like over there? Like density,
It's
altitude?
just, Orlando, the first event's a bit hotter and more muggy, and Florida's not great. That's why they're racing there now in winter, you know. So just the water, it's just different, even though the weather station could read the same.
Yeah.
You know, the Datsun wouldn't do a burnout. Like, it just was popping and banging, and like everything looked good, and to the point where it's like, hey, Kelly, get on the 2-step, let it bang, let it make some moves, let it eat, and then catch it. Like, and you just had to adapt and overcome, I guess. So just, working out the tune-up actually moved around quite a bit more than you'd expect. And then by the second event, the weather started coming around to us, you know, like we ended up, when we ran the 620, it was like 11 o'clock at night, 7 degrees Celsius, you know, like, and still watery, but, you know, I think we were at 800 feet, 700 feet, so the weather was decent. So it started helping us then. And but
obviously, and you also, obviously, they're not the only cars you've and bikes you've worked on. You've also crewed for Chris Matheson. You crewed on Kelly when she raced for Lamentinas. What's it like playing with Nitro and that side of the sport instead of methanol, big boosts, imports and stuff like that?
I feel there should be licenses so people have to like pass a test before they can work on that. It is dangerous. Like, it is a different level. Like the fuel car deal, that, the work involved, the people, the coin, the planning, like what they go through is insane. It was cool to be a part of, you know. I ended up doing the blower on it for a little while. The camaraderie, the team needed to work together. Like, it's hard to get a group of 10 guys all on the same page.
To
like,
agree,
they all want it, but, you know, you got personalities in there, and it's hardcore. It's, you know, strip them things down, put them together. You got people yelling at each other. You know, you always feel like you're too slow. Like, you're looking over your shoulder, looking at this. If them cylinder heads are going on and that blower's not ready, like, you're about to get a bit of shit thrown your way, you know? So that was really cool. The Matheson deal was awesome, just to be able to get that phone call and the opportunity. You know, their data guy that runs their fuel tech and stuff, he couldn't make an event. And Phil from Performance Wholesale, who's also tied up with Colin's stuff, he rang me up and said, look, you understand the fuel tech, so we're running the Mustang at the time. And he's like, look, I trust you enough to come and do this, you know. I've worked with him building our engines and stuff. So, just to get even that phone call was pretty cool, and an opportunity that you know, you don't want to say no to.
No, definitely not.
And just same deal. It's just a different ball game how they run it. They're like a little mini top fuel car, really. Still, but just the routine, how Chris approaches his stuff is also really cool. Like the routine is unreal, and you know, you don't undo a spark plug different to every other time you do it. You know, it's very thorough, and it needs to be, because bad stuff can just happen. You know, we've all seen cylinder heads come off in the pits on Harleys, and people get injured. And when the Golden States, when we were here, you know, there was an incident in the pits. And
that's why I don't go standing too close to any nitro bikes or anything like that, because at any point, even when they're just firing up, they can just go bang.
100%.
So it is very dangerous stuff, but it's cool.
So it is a different way, and very dangerous. You got to be very thorough, but you know, if you take that sort of thoroughness and focus and stuff, and you bring that back to, you know, blowing alcohol stuff, turbo blowing, whatever, and you can apply some of that stuff. You know, the more things you look at and you can apply over a different thing, they also, you know, they're still just engine pumps, and they got wheels, and you still got to get it down the racetrack as fast as possible.
I think that's sometimes about our program. I think, man, we could be pretty, like, a lot more thorough with what we do. And then I think something that people come past and say, oh, you guys run a really, really tight deal. Like, your stuff's like really nice, and it's well put together and always goes down. I'm like, I just think that there's always room for improvement and stuff 100%. Like that.
No matter how good it is, like, it can always be better. Something can be better. The people that like the routine, the car, the maintenance, like, if we don't get complacent,
that's right.
Bad things shouldn't happen, you know,
that's
like,
right.
Or at least give yourself the best chance.
I think that's going to be pretty much it. I think I'll run through we'll loop back to Westernationals stuff here. We'll go through the winners of the event and runner-ups. Start off with Super Street here. Cameron Lockett won the Super Street final. The runner-up was Chris De Bruyne. Super Sedan, Kathy Reagan over Nick Pullier. That was a pretty good race.
It was Kathy's first tree as well, so congrats.
Yep. Congrats to Kathy there on winning that one. Modified bike, Paul Newhoff took the win.
That's his 10th tree, so congrats. Or 10th Western, sorry, not even just tree.
Yeah, and Paul's always real on it and has a pretty cool program with that bike. And comes to every local event too, so really supportive of the Motorplex, and it's good to see. Next up, what have we got? Top Sportsman, Jason Lippy won his first. That'd have to be his first tree in Top Sportsman over a tough racer, Jeff Chasty.
In his new Grand Dam, so it's cool.
Yeah.
So he's on top of his program now.
Yeah, new car this season, and I don't think he really even knew what to say when he got up there at the trophy presentations. He was sort of lost for words. So it's good to see someone investing in the sport and buying new car and stuff like that, and then having some success. It's hard when you see some people buy new cars and get disheartened pretty quickly by not having success or something like that. So when you see someone investing in the sport and getting a payback for it is really good and really I don't know, just keeps the morale up. Junior Drakes, Cooper Plummer over Luca Lamantina. Comp bike, Mike Hollister on his, I think that'll be his first tree on his new bike. That's a pretty cool bike that they've come out with this year. Over Chris Allen. Modified was Paul Garbellini. He's on a bit of a tear this season. There's no doubt he's on track to take out the Modified Championship over Neil Ganaway.
And Ganaway's been to a few finals as well, so shout out Neil Ganaway.
Yeah, shout out Neil Ganaway. Then I think that's when we moved on to Supercharged Outlaws was Casey over Norbert Clayton, the final. He got loose around the halfway mark. And then obviously we got Super Stop after Outlaws was Errol Quartermain over Steve Norman. He got quite loose. Even I think he popped the red light actually first and then got a bit loose up the top end. So that's good to see Errol take out a Western Nationals. I don't think that's his first Western Nationals.
I don't think so, but one of the West
Can't be.
Aussie.
He's racing for he's 90 years. He's done 90 Westerns, surely.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
One of our West Aussie favourites taking it out, so it's good to see.
Yeah, he's definitely a tragic old Errol. It's good to see him getting a win. And then, it was comp eliminator rounding it out for our sportsman categories. And, the story there, very long, drawn-out story.
Hard working, painful story.
So I think that's pretty much going to be it. We're going to wrap this one up. We'll see you guys on the next one. We'll see if we can get if you guys have any suggestions of people you want to get on the podcast. So see if people we want to have a chat to, hear their stories, and that'll be it, I think. And
yes, we know you guys want Dad on, and we're going to get him on here. So look forward to that.
Yep, for sure. We're going to get Dad on soon. So thanks, boys.
Thanks for coming.
Got to go drop the big horse off of the airport soon. So we'll have him back soon. Maybe sooner rather than later, but we'll see what happens. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.